Hello students, in this short video, we'll try to understand some of the important concepts or the idea of industrial revolution. Adam Smith had once famously said that two developments or two events, I would not say industrial revolution is an event, it is more like a process. But he said that two developments transformed the fate of Europe. One was the accidental discovery of America, and second was the beginning of industrialization. So the rise of modern industries based on steam powered, electricity powered machines, the changes in the organizational structure, the societal impact, the change in the psychology, mindset of the masses, emerging power dynamics, all of this constitutes a package, and this package is called as industrial revolution. Industrial revolution, the term has been used by many. One of the prominent economists, Arnold Toynbee, was the one who popularized it, and then many have used it at various phases. What do we mean by industrial revolution? Why it is a revolution, or was it a culmination of an evolutionary process that was going on in Europe? So in this short video, I will focus on this aspect. As far as we look at industrial revolution or the process, then we can definitely say that the beginning of industrialization, if we look at industrialization, and then the second aspect is the impact of industrialization, which has been considered as revolutionary in itself. So when we look at industrialization, what do we mean by industrialization? There have been multiple ways to understand it. I would say that those who consider it as a revolution, they have emphasized on the introduction of steam powered machines. So you can say that industrialization was the beginning of modern industrialization. It was basically a transformation in the mode of production from labor intensive skill based production in cottage industries, which were more it was decentralized, to capital intensive machine based production in large volume based on economies of scale. So we see that there is a change that is happening in the production process. So they say that it is a revolution because the production process itself witnessed a remarkable change. So what change we see? It is from labor intensive. So production that was done earlier was based on labor, and what type of labor? Skilled. So skill based, decentralized production. So it was not at one place, and then we find that there were numerous what we can call as cottage industries. So from here it changed to capital intensive. Now capital will be required to set up these factories. Now this capital can be mobilized either by the state, so we see state-led industrialization, or private capitalism or private players laissez-faire or minimum interference of the state. So it is the capitalist, like in the case of Britain, America, who started, or in Japan we see later on the rise of Zaibatsu. So there have been multiple ways. The third way in which capital can be mobilized is the role of banking that we see in the case of Germany. So capital intensive, machine based. Now what differentiates the modern machines from the earlier machine is that not only they are more sophisticated, but the earlier machines were powered by human labor, animal resource, or at max wind and water. Now they will be powered by steam, which is a more prominent source of power, and later we see the rise of electricity based machine, first generation, second generation. So capital intensive machine based factories symbolized a centralized production, and what also made this entire process profitable, because it involves a lot of investment, was economies of scale. So many have said that this change itself And the advent of modern machine is a revolution. And they say that it is a revolution which has been going on. It has been going on because of the tremendous impact it had on the overall ecosystem. So there was life before industrial revolution, and then there was life after industrial revolution. In fact, many historians and economists agree that the rise of industrial capitalism symbolized the formal end of feudalism and the rise of modern capitalism in, say, 18th century. So it has been interpreted in multiple ways. One is this aspect. Second, those who say that no, it was not just an event, but it symbolizes an evolutionary process, something that has been going on, and it was the culmination of it. So they have tried to explain this evolutionary process using proto-industrialization. So again, historians like Franklin, Mendel, and others. So if Eric Hobsbawm, Gibbons, all of them focus on the revolutionary aspect, then Mendel, they have focused on the evolutionary aspect. So they have said proto means before the beginning of formal industrialization. So they said that even before the beginning of formal industrialization, even before the rise of modern machines, even before the emergence of large factories, concentrated production, there was a change that was going on in some of the countries across the world. So they say that this period from 13th to 18th century witnessed tremendous increase in the volume of production. So they say that the volume of production was increasing, maybe the technique was same. There was growing integration between the centers of production and local and distant market. So global trade was expanding in this period. And they say that some of the states where we see proto-industrialization on a remarkable scale was England, Holland, France, and even India and China. Now this is remarkable. So many, in fact, Mendel has also mentioned that how Indian economy, especially the textile sector, was also expanding, and the demand, global demand for Indian textile was also bringing a lot of imports. So India imported, or India would export goods and India would import bullion. So that was the thing. Now what is proto-industrialization and how did it function? So let me just explain that earlier traders played the role of exchange. They would buy goods from one place and sell it at a higher price making profit. Now what happened is that from 13th, or in fact earlier also, the 13th century, the world population was expanding rapidly. There was urbanization also happening. Per capita income was increasing, albeit for that 14th century when the Black Death broke down the global demand or the population. So it was steadily rising, because of which demand for textile, items of daily use, shipping industry, all of this was growing. And the traditional mode of production controlled by guilds did not have the resources, the capital, the raw material to cater to this demand. So it was in this background that we see the rise of merchant capitalism. Merchants as entrepreneurs, they started giving advances or raw materials to producers. So they started investing, and from the producers they secured finished goods, and these finished goods were sold in the market. So before this, the role of trader was not related in any ways directly to production, but now they are involved in the production process. They are controlling it in an indirect way. So what we find is that because of this, the global demand was rising, more and more money was pumped into the production. So overall, because of this, there was increase in production. But one catch in this is that still it is labor dependent, still the technique of production is same. However, the demand is rapidly rising. So there would come a point of time when a gap would emerge between the supply and demand, and that would necessitate the need to change the technique of production. And it was in this background, along with the role of scientific revolution in 17th century, that we find that machines were invented. So necessity is the mother of invention. So merchant capitalism, and this system, merchant capitalism, led to industrial capitalism. So here we find that the technique of production is same, like we have written. But what has grown is the volume of production. What has changed is the integration of the rural areas with the urban and with the global markets. And this system of giving advances is called as putting out system, or in India it was also called as Dadni system. So the transition from here to industrialization was facilitated with the invention of machines and also catalyzed by a number of political, economic, according to Max Weber, religious factors also. So the next thing that we do teach and we do discuss in the class is that if all of them were proto-industrial economy, in fact India was ahead of England in many ways in global trade, then why was England able to translate its success of 13th to 18th century in the mid 18th century? So I hope you have understood, and we will continue from here when we meet in the class. Thank you.